Good. So, welcome everyone. I want to say good morning, but actually it's not very accurate, right? So, because in here in California, it's in the morning, and then both Simon and me are in California, and then we have two speakers from Europe, and that's a good evening. So, good morning and good evening. Thanks for joining us for this sugar panel discussion. So maybe, first, I'll do a short introduction of myself. I guess most people should already know me. I'm Li Jiang from Stanford University Design Group. I work with Falk and Maya and other board members of Sugar to organize Sugar Alliance activities. And today we have three amazing speakers to join us for this panel discussion. And then I will introduce them. So the first one is Helen Camporsi. She is the founder and CEO of Humantex, an accelerator that reinvent companies' value chain, redesign business models, restart and accelerate companies' growth and execution through innovative approaches for greater efficiency and performance. She's also the founder and CEO of Pink Innov, and it is a association which gathers women and men innovators. So before Humantex, she served as the chief customer officer of OVH, which is a French cloud computing company, where she helped the company to expand its business to over 18 countries. So she's a talented, accomplished executive with 20 years of experience in the area of innovation. So welcome, Helen. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay, and then second, we have Simon Marr. Simon is the founder and chairman of the board directors and CEO of Camlet, which is a leading provider of mission critical business solutions and information technology services to the top 500 business corporations and financial institutes in the Asia Pacific region, which, this company is also listed in New York Stock Exchange in 2010. The company provides services to a wide range of industries, including financial services, resources and energy, manufacturing and automobile technology, as well as telecommunication, media, and education. So Simon has over 30 years of experience in software and information technology services industry. He is well recognized as one of the prominent figures and thinkers in information technology industry in the Asia Pacific area. So prior to joining Camlet, Simon served as the software architect in IBM. So he has a lot of experience in different areas. So it's our honor to have Simon here. Thank you, Simon, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jiang, and hello, everyone.
Okay, and the last, not the least, we have Filippo Filippo Cipriani. Is that sorry?
Cipriani.
Cipriani. Sorry, I was practicing this, but so Filippo is currently the head of open innovation at Sanofi Genzyme. For those of you who are not familiar with this company is one of the biggest pharmaceutical company on earth. So he served different, leading roles in this company at national and European level. So in the field of health technology assessment, outcome research, pricing, and reimbursement and market access. Over the years, he developed a specific interest in the interconnection between science and society. In 2015, he developed Make to Care initiative, which is a multi-stakeholder initiative on patient and caregivers bottom up and participative innovation. So, and actually, Filippo has a very strong biology background because he had a PhD degree from molecular genetics from University College of London. So, Filippo, thank you very much to join us. And I think today we're gonna, thank you. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Today
Hi,
we're gonna
everyone.
have a very, I think, inspiring discussion because we have speakers from both North America and also Europe. And then Filippo actually is from the northern part of Italy. And then Simon have companies in China, which is where COVID-19 initially started. And then I guess North Italy is the second hotspot. And then now, US has the most cases. So we have every place covered. And our topic for today is innovation during and after COVID-19. So I would actually maybe for the first several minutes and ask each of you to maybe share, introduce yourself in a different way. I don't know, because I'm just, reading the introductions. So I guess we start from the lady, Helen. Maybe you can say a few words.
I think, thank you very much, because the introduction was very great. I have nothing to say more. Yes, I'm the founder of a company, and I decided to create this company to help others company to develop their own business and find different way to accelerate based on different innovative method. Like design thinking is not the only one I used, but I use others too. And at the same time, I've created like Lisa Pinkinov, which is an organization and an association which gather women and men in innovation, because in France, what I've seen, there were too many men and not enough women in innovation position. So my decision to create it was to say how I can help women to succeed in innovation, how I can help her to find the right way to have new position, and that's what I do. At the same time, I'm also board members in the big structure in defense, and also in board members in energy, and the board members is another association which help innovative companies in France. So I'm very happy to be here today to discuss about the COVID and how we can innovate before and after COVID, because I think that most of our life had changed with what's happened during these last months.
Yeah, exactly. Simon, can you say a few words?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I am Simon Ma, and we went back to China and established a company called Camelot Information Systems, and we're in the business of automating our customers' companies in a way that we automate the way they manage their company and the way they operate their company. And back then, we went there, it was like 1994. Back then, there wasn't, a sort of, software or service industry per se. So we literally witnessed, this industry starting from zero. And now it's a pretty, bigger industry. And through, this whole process, I think I learned a lot, not only, on our own business, but also, on the way, our customer, how they changed, from, making like, raw judgment of the senior leaders to a more process-based, management style. And I think, this pandemic will further change, the way they operate, everybody operates. And I think, this pandemic is obviously a tragedy, and it'll be a shame if we don't learn anything from it. So I'm really interested to, learn more in this, online conferences. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Filippo.
So, hi everyone. So you're right, Lee. So the north of Italy was the most affected region in Italy for COVID, right after China. So now things are getting much better, I have to say. But we have realized that things are are never going to be the very same. So we have to reinvent a little bit ourselves. So what it it comes out quite uh, in a loud voice is that we need more way to interact in the digital domain between patients and doctors, as well as company as doctors. So because most of the activities that that we face, I don't know about all your geographies, but we suddenly experience that healthcare as we know it in Italy is still hospital centric. So you have to go to the hospital to get your test, to get your visit. You have to go to the hospital to pick up your drugs, the refill of your drugs. And so in the past 3 months, that was let's say disrupted from the very foundation. So I think that we have learned a very interesting lesson in the past 3 months. And I'm not saying anything absolutely new or original to say that now telemedicine, for instance, is exploding more than ever because patients do not feel safe to go to the hospital if nothing is restored. And on the other side, there is quite a lot of backlog in terms of visit and experimental test. And so we need a fast way to regain all the time that we have closed the offices of the doctors in the past 3 months. So I think that this is something that is going to be a very good challenge, and I do think that approach that Sugar can put in place, it can be very helpful for that. Absolutely.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like, just continue on your things that you discussed. For example, for the faculty members in the university, like we teach a lot of project-based classes, and then in these classes, it's pretty challenging that now we cannot have students to meet face to. I mean, yeah, people still meet face to face, but through a computer. And then we always encourage students to work together on physical prototypes and things like that. And that changed in the past few months. So my first question is that what have changed in your company during this COVID-19 period in terms of innovation? So who want to go? Like Simon?
Okay,
What
yeah.
changed in your?
Well, I think, I'll just bring up 2 points. One is, I think our customers has been rethinking about this supply chain because, you also see that everywhere, including the US, for example, like, food industry, right? On the one hand, we see that, the restaurants, they don't, they stop ordering, majority part of their supplies and making that, food processing industry for restaurant quite, disrupted. And on the other hand, the consumer food processing is, it has so much demand that the processing industry cannot keep up with the demand. And even though, they are, saying, raw things, but they go through different channels, the distribution channels and processing channels and so forth. And the reason for that is that supply chain over the last 30 years has been optimized on a single variable. Many of them, I'm not saying every one of them, but many of them are optimized on a single variable, that's efficiency. And now, this efficiency has also created, many single point of failures. So this pandemic hits right on those single point of failure and making, the supply, disruption. And after that, I think, a lot of companies right now are thinking about not only optimize on efficiency, but also optimize on flexibility so that, they can handle unexpected events a little bit better. Now, the second point I want to bring up is the so-called remote work, because, people can't get together, so they have to work remotely. And some companies said it's very good, and some has bad experience. But the way, I see it is that, remote work has advantages, obviously, but it also presents a few challenges. I'll just bring up a few of them. One is, as we know, employees, they need identification of the company in terms of culture, right? What we do is that, as, the junior employees to a company, they need to understand, how people, interact with each other, how people, dress when they go to work, and all these things, making us, ourselves more fit, to the company so that we work there happier and hopefully, get promoted faster. And, but, the online thing, the remote work thing doesn't provide that. And the other thing is that when you go to the office, you have a structure and you have this routine that you have to go through. So it has this formality set up so that people, become focused on the work. And working from home, you don't have that routine and structure, So making in some cases, you have, lost the productivity that way. And after that, after this pandemic, I think a lot of companies are, thinking about, improve the tools that they use so that they can at least, partially support this remote working capability. And this thing will probably, partially improve on the so-called, corporate productivity tools, and partly on, the kind of tool that builds company culture so that, we don't feel isolated. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. How about Helen?
Well, I'm going to be maybe more general with a European vision because my company is working for other companies, so which means that have a transversal vision. And what I've done the last 2 weeks is to organize a qualitative interviews to understand how companies in France, especially, or some company working across the world, how they feel with what's happened with the COVID. And what everybody say is, first of all, that everybody know that is an exogenous crisis linked to the COVID-19. It's a breaking coming from China and moving continent to continent, putting more than 2.7 billion of people in shelter, stopping 1/3 of part of company in the world. And the difference of the different crises that everybody know is it doesn't concern only one company, one sector, or one country, but the world. And the situation today has driven a lot of companies into accrue debts. And some of them produce little compared than before, or maybe someone don't produce anymore. And some of them which have outsourced their knowledge and also their value, lost their sovereignty because they become independent. And it was a terrible crisis for this company because now they face with value destruction, which weakens them. So we are more than ever in a VUCA world. When I say VUCA, I don't know if everybody knows the word, but it's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And most of strategy and priorities and innovative projects change quickly. Some innovation projects directly stop because governance don't think that is a priority, but we have to face with new question, how to restore business, how to make decision in this uncertainty world, but also how we're going to help our company to survive. And this question is very legitimate because the crisis has shows our weakness in continuity plan, in recovery plan, in internal processes or supply chain or operation. So I think that actually most of companies need to be more imaginative, to reinvent themselves, to focus on new business model, to focus on new way of work, maybe to think differently. And it's going to change because, you know, consumers don't have new, the new vision, they have new expectation, and we need to find new offers, maybe more in good prices, because what is going to change too is maybe their power of living, and they won't be able to buy the same thing at the same price. So we need also to think about what's going to happen with all people in shelter, because our collaborators, when they work in remote, they change their life. Some of them are lost because they don't know how to use digital tools, but also some of them in France have a lot of proactive action of solidarity. And I think that it changed a lot the vision they have and how they can to manage the way to work with a company, with environment and their position. And I think they're going to change the way they want to collaborate each other and how they're going to change maybe the way they want to work and the way they want to deal with the companies. And I think it's the same situation than for customer. The vision of our collaborators and the vision of our partners and the ecosystem, the global ecosystem, is going to move to a new strategy and change what they expect to our different companies. And that's the big change we're seeing in France.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, a lot of things will change. And Filippo, could you comment a little bit on what have changed in the company in terms of innovation? And for example, you know, when you guys do innovation, what have changed and what kind of impact is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that the actual crisis has accelerated quite a lot of activities that were already in plan. The way of working has changed, and I would say that our company in Italy, we were used to have quite a lot of employees smart working from home 2 days a week already, and we obviously all the company was for the past 90 days smart working for 5 days a week. But what is just to give you the flavor of the fact that you want to take the opportunity of what happened. So the company has decided, together with the trade unions, to keep going with the smart working 5 days a week until the end of December. So that meaning beyond the pandemic, because we have seen in these 90 days that people accountability has increased. So people are working better, are working very hard because they try to compensate the fact that they cannot meet physically. Okay, so we have invested the past 3 months in training, in communication training, because we now have to communicate with our customer outside the company using a communication tools that are not the usual one. If before was 90% physical interaction and 10% digital interaction, now is going to be the other way around. So you have to flip the percentage the other way around. So, and that is not immediate, because if you don't give everybody a solid base, you might let's say jeopardize the message that you want to pass through. So basically you need both the what and you need also the how. So having said that, we have also found one important lesson here, that is the fact that innovation never ever happens alone. So you need third parties. You need someone that compensate your weakness. Your weakness is your blind spot. Okay, so maybe you don't see something, and one of your partner is happy to give that point of view to you. And we have found that specifically in these circumstances in the past 90 days, I would say in two categories for our, I would say, industry, that is pharmaceutical. So in the patient associations, so the patient representatives, they have been very vocal because they wanted to say, we have fragile patients, we have fragile people that needs now more than ever specific needs and specific attentions. And the second stakeholder that we have found a great partnership with are the scientific societies. Scientific societies that do represent the physicians. They add the, let's say, perspective to say, okay, we need to do something. So we need now to visit our patient from remotely. We don't want to have patients coming to the hospital every month, every 2 months, if that is not needed. So if we manage to have some kind of certainty that the patients are doing well, and we can monitor them by different means, through digital channels, apps, telemedicine, you name it. So everyone is better off. So that is something that was already on our mind since a long time. However, now the crisis has made this opportunity a real priority. So in a nutshell, I would say we have worked as a company inside the company just to strengthen our competences and our culture. So the company has provided tools for people working from home. Okay, so basically the biggest screen, because now we stay more time on the PC than we used to do before. So okay, the company has done something that you might not consider important, but in reality it is. It has engaged the employees community doing let's say postural exercise by Zoom, in order, okay, just so that you meet your colleague. Also in interaction that is not necessarily a working interaction. Okay, so that has let's say work on the culture of the company itself.
Actually, my following question also follows this. Of course, this is a disaster globally, like for every country, that most people need to stay at home, work from home. But like as innovator, we could always look from another point of view, which is, was there any positive like effect of this? For example, from my point of view, that I found it's easier to schedule a meeting with someone remotely in these days. Uh, like previously, people like to meet face to face, so that it's easier to meet like anyone who is in the Bay Area. And then if I want to schedule a meeting with someone in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, it's always troublesome. But in the past, 2 months, for me to schedule meetings with them, it's actually pretty easy, because everybody is so familiar with the online communication tools. That this thing helped the penetration of online meetings and that kind of stuff. So maybe in the future, there's, I think there's a new norm. And then, is there any, let's say, kind of like a positive side effect that you have been observed on this, and you see any new trend after COVID-19 that will actually make innovation more efficient? Or, any comments on that? Maybe Helen?
Yes, I think that what's happened is has a huge impact on the different company. And concerning innovation, I think that having effectively the digital tools is one way to collaborate, and you can continue to create. But some, in Europe and in France especially, we have two type of companies. Some of them stop all innovation and decided to focus on operation, and other totally the opposite. I mean, some leaders encourage innovation, acceleration, investment on priority, think out of the box, reinvent themselves, push people working all together with digital tools, and using the agility and be inspired by a startup spirit to create new tools, new process, new offer, new product, accelerate the digital in the company in a remote way. And I think it's a good way, because what I've seen in the past is most of inclusive, humanist, and progressive innovation appears in crisis period. So I think in that way, innovation is really important, is not an option, is a necessity, pushed by the external event, which can train us to move from our comfort zone. And at the same time, it's very interesting, because all companies which continue to innovate or invest enhance their position and keep competitive advantage. So most of my clients, human tech client governance, grasps to the situation as an opportunity to rethink companies' role, to discuss about their mission, about their social and societal engagement versus position, new way of work, new kind of relationship with customer, partners, and employees. So they start to work in remote to rethink the way that they can use existing resources, how they can be more confident with the resources in the company and women creativity to adopt new pragmatic solution and innovative approach. So I think that it's a very interesting period at the same time, because all change are very positive, because they put people in another position and can train them to think differently and to have a new impact on innovation, and maybe create something that doesn't exist in the company, and maybe they won't create it in the company if we didn't have this period. So it's very interesting to see how some companies, like for example, restaurant, were closed in France, how they find new way to use digital platform to make takeaway product. And that's one way to innovate. So I think it was very positive on that way to change the position we have.
I order food all the day, like these days.
Yes.
I have been like, trying to cooking by myself like for 2 months, and then I just couldn't stand that anymore, because I'm not a we're not good cooks. Anyway, Simon, any comments? Any-
Well, I'd like to add, along the line to Helen. And I think, because we provide, software for companies, corporations, and, one of the things is that, people work in those large corporations, they have their established, their own channels of communication. And they collect, people, have to collect a lot of information around them so that they can make better decisions. And a lot of time, the way they collect information is one is informal, it's not through like a formal meeting or formal some channels, but people meet in hallways and they talk and they share information. And the other characteristic of that is non-intrusive, meaning that it's we don't want to interrupt others while they're working. So the way it works is that if we meet at lunch, we talk for a little bit and we share information. So I'm not causing a disruption in your work, and you're not causing a disruption on mine, and that works very well. So I think along that trend, we'll see more and more companies start using some types of social media as a part of their work platform to enable those communications that are both informal and non-intrusive. And so we already see, have seen, companies picking up, a lot of, new tools, that, because I think, everybody has installed, Zoom, for example, right now, right? And it used to be, people, companies, they don't want, people to, talk about their work on social media, but now I think, they are adapting to some form of those. And I think, it opens up a new channel for the companies to manage, their business, and also to the way they operate their business.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Filippo, any comments on this? Like any positive or
No, yes, indeed. I do think that there has been a disruption, so that's it's a given. However, there is the situation has identified some point of intervention. Okay, so I just would like to give one example. So we have massively reduced traveling because we were obviously locked, at least in Italy. Each one was locked in the region of residency, unless there were, let's say, important reason for healthcare or for work. Okay, so if your activity was essential, you could move from one region to region, or even if you have an important, let's say, visit that you have to make to a specialist, and you have booked well in advance, it could not be possible to cancel. So in Italy, in any other region, so we managed to have a massively better quality of air, because there was no pollution, no car, not whatsoever. So that was honestly opening a reflection at the level of company. Also, if all the traveling that we used to do, is it really necessary? Okay, or if we can now go back to a new normal that is a more conscious blend of face-to-face physical meeting and digital interaction through Zoom or any other digital tool. Okay, so I'm just I don't want to sound too much over optimistic or make it too simple. So the way is just that you need the right blend and balance, like everything else in life. So you need something that you have to do face to face. There are other things that you can do remotely. So I would say that 100% and 0 versus 0 and 100% is in both ways is wrong. So you have to find exactly. The second important thing is just that again, you don't. It is not enough that you change your behavior as a company if the environment around you doesn't change behavior too. So I can propose a lot of activity if I do think about medical information. So how to present new data to physicians about an upcoming drug. Okay, like the result of the clinical trials. Usually, this is something that you do at conferences, and these conferences are a place to do networking. Okay, honestly, this is it has created some sort of disruption. In the future, I think we're gonna have blend in which maybe the scientific society, instead of meeting face to face twice a year, we're just gonna meet once a year, and they will do webinars, sometimes even more, let's say, close one to each other. To cover education in a sort of more organized curriculum. Okay, so
actually, sorry for the interruption. I like what Simon says, that probably company need to find new ways or more innovative ways for people to work remotely, but still feel it's one part of the company, and then they can.
Absolutely.
Actually, we only have 3 minutes left. I would just say a few things, because actually I heard from Helen that some of these companies decided to stop innovating and wait for this pandemic to go past and then restart innovating. Some companies keep doing innovation during this pandemic. And I'm surprised to hear that some companies stopped because, well, as far as I, have heard, or I talk with a lot of medical professionals or, faculty members at Stanford Medical School. And then so far, it's okay, but it's not so optimistic, which means that we don't have a vaccine yet, and we don't have a specific medicine that can treat this thing well. So which means we could actually in a position that need to stay with this virus for some time. And in this kind of situation, what should we do? And I would like, each of you maybe give 1 minute of suggestions or advice to our students, our graduate student, and also the company in the Sugar Network. So let's start from Helen.
Yes.
A short summary.
Okay. Depend on the sector, and some sectors stop innovation because there were some priorities and wasn't the same, and some other decided to take this period to go ahead and be the first one on the Asia market tomorrow when all will be open. And obviously in medicine, for example, we need to innovate and continue to innovate is very the urgency. So what I can say to, it's important for me concerning innovation, I think that what we can say is I have identified 3 main factors concerning innovation. And I think that companies which are resilient will adopt a new approach with collaborator and understand that their collaborator can be weakness sensor in the company and be able to solve fragility with a maker spirit. At the same time, the second one I think is search meaning is really important because we need to focus now on sustainable innovation because it will make sense for ecology, for environment, for solidarity, and maybe governance of and leadership of different companies need to rethink about sustainable state of art post-COVID, about what will be the innovation tomorrow. And the last one is sovereignty. Too many companies lost sovereignty during this period because they were dependent of the production in another country which were closed. And I think that we need to guarantee activities and work with an ecosystemic approach to continue to innovate and find new level of growth, new way of work, to use new tools to work on digital and stop using, for example, plain for face-to-face meeting, like Filippo said. So this is maybe the three great factors of influence for innovation. And I think that we need to start with intrinsic value, use existing resources to reinvent ourselves and develop new added values for collaborators, customer, and our partners. And we need to go very quickly. We need to go straight to the point, fail very quickly, decided and isolation to execute, because it's really important to have a very good disciplinary method to help the company to grow and to restart the business now with the opening of new countries, and be
Great,
very
thank you.
pragmatic and efficient. You're welcome.
Thank you. Simon.
Yeah. I think, during this pandemic, we have developed certain habits, and those habits, some of them, will stay with us for a long while. And I think, a significant portion of people might feel uncomfortable, sitting in a larger crowd. And therefore, all the business need to adapt to this change of behavior and develop their business so that they can accommodate that. And the kind of list goes on, but I think it's the key thing is that for all business, they need to observe and understand what are the changes of this, the behavior changes of this pandemic that brings it to them, and so that they can modify the way they do business to fit, this change of behavior.
Great. Thank you. Filippo.
So I just take 1 minute because we are running late. So I would present you a different scenario. So not company that stop innovating, not company that starts innovative because of COVID, but there could be also something in between. So there might have been company that have developed concept in the recent past. They were considered too, I would say, advanced to be implemented soon. Okay, that company could be now in the position to take that concept, that idea out of the shelf and just to start implementing them. So what I'm saying is just that might be some company that have developed a higher readiness towards innovation. Maybe they were not, already there. Okay, but I also like to present this scenario. So not someone that was innovating all the time and freeze innovation because of COVID. Okay, and or someone that was, like more traditional in the business that feel the need to, attempt something new. There might be a company that were, doing a lot of concept, and I do think the prototyping and design, so you might have in the company already some prototypes, something that you already proved that might work, and because now it is needed, it is the time to boost it. Okay, that is, I think, I do like to think that there are many company in that specific bucket.
Great. Okay, so I'll take the last 1 minute. I would say that for the student and also the companies, please keep innovating, do not stop. And there's a lot of circumstances or constraints, but this all should not stop us from innovating. I'll give you one example. We received an email from the president of Stanford University about 1 or 2 days ago. to keep us updated about the future of the academic year. And then there was like a really surprising innovation in that email, because at Stanford, all the undergraduate student, most of the graduate student leave on campus. However, each graduate student have a room by themselves, but the undergraduate leave like 2 person in 1 room. So that's not good for, in this period. So that actually Stanford is considering that in the future, next 1 year or so, that all the graduate students could come back to campus, but undergraduate, only half come back to campus, the other half online, and then they switch. So, I mean, I never thought about that, but that could be one solution. And that actually surprised me. I'm like, oh, that's creative. And then at least you get half of year on campus, which is good, better than 0. And then also, get people to feel the community. But then it creates some, burdens for the faculty members, because you have to deal with students who are taking your class, and half of them are online, half of them are actually physical. So, but still, I think we as human beings, that we can figure out solutions in all kinds of circumstances. Anyway, so with all that, I would close our session. Thank you very much for joining us, and really appreciate your support for Sugar community. And we're a little bit over time, so thank you very much, and have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. So
You too.
okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.